watching this. This is not accurate. This is not true information. So then they go back to, their TikTok. And their TikTok, obviously, social media has an algorithm. It's called Matt's Matters because it matters. You heard? Well, hear it right here every week on Matt's Matters. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Matt's Matters. I'm your host, Matt Brinson, and our new computer finally came after, I don't know, maybe a month or so, but it's finally here. It's sitting down right there. You can't see it. You cannot see it, but it looks nice. It's just sitting there. I opened the box and I was like, oh. Yeah, it's finally here. Which I was waiting for a while for it to come. But we still I got a hub for it too, so now it's sitting on top of the hub, so I can have more plugins and everything like that into it. So that's very clutch. Very clutch, bro. But, so yeah. The Knicks won. We got our Knicks jersey on back here, because, they do play tonight. They better win. They better freaking win, bro, because they got to go up 3-2 in the series. Let's just get the Hawks out of here, kick them out. Get them out. Beat them down. Because I don't want this series to go on any longer, honestly. I don't. And then, Jalen Brunson's going to walk in. He's just going to do his thing. Yeah, so they won. And I did an episode on them last week. And maybe because I did an episode, they won. So, they listened to me. And they started playing more guys. And they didn't play Mikal Bridges as much because he sucks. So, yeah. Maybe Mike Brown listened to my show. I bet he did. But anyway, so they do play tonight, so that should be interesting. It should be a good game. But, yeah, we are back for another episode. We got our new setup. We got some new digs, we're updated, we're upgraded. Upgraded. But, so, last week, what I was going to talk about, but now I decided to do, like, a quick sports episode, is I was going to talk about the effects of the media in politics, more so social media in politics, and then a few days ago, I think it was like a few days ago. I think it was yesterday. I don't know if you guys watch Channel 5 News, but they came out with a video discussing how billionaires control the media and everything like that. I haven't finished the whole video yet because it's kind of long, but I'll probably finish it after I record this. So that kind of inspired me to bring up this topic, because sometimes I think of topics and then I just write them down in notes or something like that. Yeah, so I'll write them in my notes or something, and I'll save it for another day. Depends on what I would like to talk about for that day. So we're going to be talking about how, more so we're going to be looking at the 2020 election compared to the 2024 election, because in my opinion, that's when social media and stuff in those regards kind of started having more of an influence on politics, because of in 2020, we obviously remember COVID, which was just a very, very dark time, It was, everyone was locked at home, and it was just not that good. Yeah, it was not very fun. So during that time, in 2020, when everyone was at home, a lot more people, and this is just my opinion based off of, just how the country is now. So a lot of people were like, oh man, what am I going to do now? So they started turning to their phones, and then podcasts, things like that started taking off, and people just started really just putting their ideas out there. They just, So I read an article from PubMed Central talking about how social media, there's actually another article from University of Washington College of Arts and Science. So they basically talked about how people, they used to only get their media from maybe 3 main sources, either probably 5 different news channels, a newspaper, or radio, or whatever newspaper you want to read, or whatever radio station you listen to. And that's basically how they got their information back in the day, before social media was a thing and all these mass media news cycles. So basically now people kind of just, instead of, if they're watching something that's different from their opinion, they're like, oh, well, I'm not watching this. This is not accurate. This is not true information. So then they go back to their TikTok, and their TikTok, obviously, social media has an algorithm to make you keep coming back to social media, and it only shows you videos of things that you believe or think are true. So then now you're just getting fed more information to reimburse your own opinions, which might not always be accurate. So it's just social media is just pumping these things into you for you to build up your own opinion and think that becomes facts, which is just, it is what it is, man. It's just, that's what's happening. That's what's happening. Going on TikTok and they're only seeing things that kind of cater to their viewpoints in their algorithm, which is just, it's kind of a dangerous thing, honestly, because then you could just see things, then you get down the rabbit hole of stuff, and then you're just like, well, is this true? But then the social media has so much convinced you that it is true that you just end up believing it. These social media companies make money by you clicking, so of course they're going to put more content out there that makes you want to view it, and then that's how they become viral, and then that's how they get their money, from you clicking on it. So this is so the part about this article that I found interesting, the relationship between politicians engaging in the press in various ways has changed, because now it's more so you see like these documentaries that are kind of focusing on just kind of digging out the truth, and there's not many more so moments where reporters are in the White House asking like hard journalistic, independent, like gotcha moment questions. They're just kind of asking safe questions, because they're also not be allowed to come back to the White House, which, what happened to the freedom of press, bro? But yeah, so it's very, there's this TikTok channel that I think it's called like Street something New York or something. They go out and they like do all these little short videos about political stuff. I forget. I'll put it in when I find it. And then, certain social media influencers are getting way more views than the mass news. And then you have all these people watching a certain, influencer, and they endorse a candidate. They're like, well, this person who I watch all the time and trust is endorsing this candidate, which is going to make me, or not me, but you know what I mean, make me someone who watches them and trusts them, be like, okay, so this is who I'm going to vote for, because this person who I watch every day and trust them, they're endorsing this candidate, and that's going to kind of shift my direction to that person. I think that is important to expose ourselves to different information, because if you're just only watching, let's say you're just only watching like CNN, or you're just only watching Fox News, and that's the only way you get your information, and then you go read some like either New York Post or like the Washington Times or something like that, and that's your only way you get news sources. And then after that you go on your phone, which knows that you watch these two news sources, so that's all it's feeding you. So you're not really branching off into other like spaces. You're just sticking in that one space and hearing the same thing over and over and over again. Eventually it just gets embedded into your brain that, all right, so this is what I'm hearing, so this is the accurate information, and I don't need to go anywhere else because I have all the information I need. So I think it's important to look to really realize these things when you're watching stuff, to truly, and then even if you watch, Fox News or CNN, the stories they're reporting, you can go research on your own to make sure they're actually accurate. If there's something that piques your interest, be like, is this like actually accurate, or is this actually true? Because there's very many various examples of the same news outlets covering different stories, and how they headline the stories and write the stories are completely different for the same event. Social media, or like media like that, like free speech, was always meant for people who didn't have a voice to have a voice, like social media platforms and stuff like that. You can create these groups online where you can chat with people who have the same values and ideas as you and things like that. But now, so we're seeing the other side of that, where it's social media used to be, providing a voice for the voiceless, like I just said. But now there's also the other side of that, where it's becoming more platforms are increasingly being used for means of empowering disruptive voices, messages of ideologies like xenophobia, neo-Nazism, anti-immigration, globalization, homophobia, things like that, like anti-transgender stuff. And then it's becoming this like hate group that just goes to these other chat rooms and they just constantly bash people. Like the internet trolls, basically. They always hound on them, and they're just not good people. And then social media, because God forbid that we regulate people's social media, they just get on there and they see whatever they want, no matter if it's good or bad. And sometimes the bad stuff is worse than the good stuff, because there's just so much bad information out there that we see it and we're like, is this true? Is this real? Like the AI videos that they make now, that you can't even tell if they're fake or real. They just look like they literally look so real, and sometimes you can't tell. And people are getting scammed and stuff like that. It's crazy what's happening out here, man. It's just crazy. But anyway, so we're gonna get into the election. The election from 2020 and 2024. But first we'll start with 2020. 2020 and the voter turnout. So in 2020, they compared 2020 people who like could vote and could not vote. So let's go up here. So voter turnout in 2020, 2024. So 2024 voting preference among those who were eligible but did not vote in 2020. So these are people who they would have voted for if they could have voted. So they would have voted for Trump in 2016. They would have voted for Biden, but they couldn't vote until 2020. So that is kind of, what happened, and then it kind of flip-flopped. And you could see 2024 is like, it was very split between, like, Biden was just blew away Trump, and then, hey, pause. And then in 2020, it was like very close. I mean, I don't think it was that close, because if you were watching the coverage, you could kind of see the outcome of what it was going to be. So, the most frequent voters were evenly divided, while Trump had the advantage among 2020 only voters. So if we look at people who only voted in 2024, obviously it was 55% Trump and 41% Kamala Harris. But then if we go back to 2024 and 2020, it was Biden, and then 2024, 2022 was Trump, and then Trump barely beats out Harris from 2024, 2022, and 2020 voters. So the reason I mention that is because if we look at why did the voters slip so much from that 2020 turnout when Biden won versus the 2024 turnout when Trump won? So if we look strictly at 2024, this is where it gets interesting. So this is how news influencers talked about Trump and Harris during the 2024 election. So obviously, if we remember in, I think it was October or November, that Biden, they said, he's unfit to run. So we're just going to throw Kamala Harris in there. So, and then also, if we remember what happened, is that Trump almost got shot during that time and almost got assassinated, which made his popularity soar through the roof in a short span of time. So 9 in 10 news influencers mentioned Trump. 86% mentioned Trump, and 86% mentioned Harris by name. At least one post during the weekends we studied in the summer and fall 2024. Yet twice as many posts mentioned Trump. 12% of all posts from news influencers during this period mentioned him, compared with the 60% that mentioned Harris. This pattern holds even when we exclude the first week in the study period in which Joe Biden ended his candidacy. So look at that. So news influenced Trump 90%, Kamala Harris 86%, Joe Biden 85%. And look at the news, that's news influencers, that's social media and stuff, 12% and only 6% Harris. So then this is the part that I found was very interesting. So if we look at Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, which are the most, I'd say, popular social media sites, honestly. So during the 2024 election season, the majority of posts by news influencers that mentioned either Trump or Harris were posted on X, formerly known as Twitter. Which who owns Twitter? Elon Musk. Interesting. So almost half the posts on X had mentioned either candidate. 48% were posted by right-leaning news influencers, where only 28% came from left-leaning influencers. So look at this. Twitter mentioned the right 48% of the time, and only 28% of the time for the left. Then YouTube is kind of mixed. Facebook is heavily Trump because there's a lot of older people on Facebook. Instagram was more Trump, and TikTok is more Harris. So you're telling me that this heavy Twitter influence did not impact the election at all? Come on, we know it did. We know that it impacted it. I would say that the news definitely has the social media and the news definitely has impact on the election. I mean, it just does. If you see other stuff and you're like, oh, who should I vote for? I'm not sure. And then you see a social media account that you follow endorse a person, then you're going to be more likely to vote for them. So, why wouldn't you? If it's a source that you trust, you're just going to be, hey, this is someone I trust, I'm just going to vote for them. And it's the algorithms and everything like that just kind of feed into it. Feed into your delusions, I should say. It depends who you vote for, I guess, but, it's all about just, everyone's right these days. Everybody knows everything. We all know everything. And we have so much information that we all know everything. We're all geniuses. In the media, there's a lot of politicians that have their own media accounts. Like, they still engage in the press in various ways, but if they want to reach a larger segment of the population, they often find it easy just to go by going on entertainment, podcasts, or posting to social media rather than facing more serious questions that they might get from a hostile independent press. Journalists are adapting simply by focusing less on one-on-one interviews, gotcha moments with politicians, and doing more deep dive documentary analysis. So yeah, like I said earlier, like, you know, like the 60 Minutes or something like that. But let's see, how do we get here? How do we get from, you know, just it's 5 news channels, the freaking just a little bit of news here and there, to now just like 24/7 constant news cycle? And there's also a movie on HBO Max that's also by Andrew Callahan, calling This Place Rules, I believe it's called, and he talks about the effect of the mass media during COVID and all the events leading to the January 6th Capitol riots, and basically how the media pits us against each other, that one side tells us all this, the other side tells us all this, which makes a clash of people. And also, if you watch The Boys, they also do a very similar thing between the Starlighters and the Homelanders, and how it's like one side's over here and one side's so far divided that he's crashed in the middle. So The Boys is cooking this season. I would definitely watch The Boys if you enjoy like superhero shows and stuff like that, but it also has some true relatable stuff in there. It's very good show. And this is the last season, sadly. So yeah, let's see some of what this Andrew Callahan video was talking about.
All right, what's up, guys? As you can see, I'm sweating pretty hard because I'm quite nervous about where our country's at right now. Today, on a real note, we are at a crucial crossroads in press freedom that our country has never seen before. There are now 6
of these wonderful people right here just own most of the media, which Elon Musk obviously owns Twitter, and this guy's, I think he's in the middle of getting some deal done to own like more media companies, if I remember correctly.
Who own a majority share of American news media, and one family in particular, headed by Oracle CEO, IDF donor, and AI data center kingpin Larry Ellison, is on the verge of controlling CBS, CNN, HBO, MTV, BET, Nickelodeon, Pluto, and the actual algorithmic infrastructure of TikTok itself, which in itself may be more influential than all those outlets put together.
See, TikTok is like probably the most popular social media site around right now, and they probably saw that, and the government was threatened by that because it was exposing some true things that the government probably did not want to hear. So then they started coming for the CEO of TikTok, and they're saying that it was stealing our information and everything like that, which was a few years ago, I believe. And then remember, TikTok ended up getting banned for like a couple of days, and it was off the App Store. And if you had it, it didn't really work yet. Like, you tried to go on it, and it would not let you like do anything on it. It would just be on your phone, but if you open it, you couldn't like view anything. And then if you deleted it and you tried to get back from the App Store, you could not download it. But then they ended up selling TikTok to a group. I think I talked about this once. They sold TikTok to an American group, and then ever since then, TikTok has not been the same, in my opinion. As someone who's been using TikTok before it got freaking popular with all the stupid TikTok dancers and things like that. But anyways,
In real time, if the Warner Brothers and Paramount Skydance merger goes through, we're going to witness the hostile takeover of our entire news media infrastructure by big tech, with Ellison's acquisition coming on the heels of Jeff Bezos buying the Washington Post, Elon Musk buying X, and Mark Andreessen acquiring large shares in Substack, the Free Press, and many other outlets, while simultaneously serving on the board of directors of Zuckerberg's Meta. Aside from those three, you also have Salesforce CEO Mark Benioff, I think that's how you say it, who purchased Time Magazine and Time Ventures. And then, of course, you have Palantir's Peter Thiel, the architect of our modern surveillance state. According to several of our whistleblower sources, Thiel is also personally invested in signal boosting friend of the show, Braden Clavicular Peters. This support and Clav's rapid viral rise makes total sense. Thiel has made a number of strange statements about the future of humanity.
You would prefer the human race to endure, right? You're hesitating.
Yeah, well,
Yes?
I don't know. I would...
And tightening of control over key industries like the media, which we're going to discuss today. In today's podcast, we're...
Alright, but anyways, you get the idea that, the media companies are controlled by these rich people. And where do politicians get their money from? They get it from political donations. And you think if they're like, oh, I'll give you some money if you push this bill or something that will get me a better spot, and then if they control the media companies, they're going to be like, oh, you can't put the certain information is probably going to get censored depending on the owner's political beliefs, which is just taking away from the free independent media. And based off our research today and everything, we can see that the media and social media is a crucial factor in, presidential elections, Congress elections, House of Representative elections. It's just a big factor in elections. And certain influencers can very much persuade younger voters who might not be willing to do their own independent research. They just find a source and they trust it. Even a lot of older people now are just becoming, someone once said that, like how Bluey is like brain rot for kids, Fox News is brain rot for adults. Which, if you think about it, because some of the stuff they say on there, if you really dive into it, it's like they take things out of context all the time. They're just, I don't know, you can watch whatever you want, but just be careful what you're watching and realize that there's these big groups that control everything that we are allowed to view. But there's ways around that you can do your own independent research and really deep dive into the web. So I'm just saying, guys, just be careful what you believe is true and what you believe is false, because some of this information out here is, with AI and everything like that now, it's just not good. And all these data centers, man, knowledge is power, guys. And if these people think they have all the knowledge in the world, then they think they can just power over us and do whatever they want and make us believe whatever they want. But we can't let that happen. So yeah, media. So anyways, at the end of the day, I do really believe that social media has influenced the last two elections based off the news mention of these people, like the candidates and everything like that. So social media is a good tool and a bad tool, and it's kind of has some negative impacts in the last few years because of bad information and things like that. And then now, if certain people all own the media companies and people are trying to expose the truth, they'll just censor their videos. So hopefully we still remain to have freedom of press and everything like that, and independent journalism is a great tool. And there's a lot of independent journalists on TikTok and stuff like that you can follow and view, and they can kind of, teach you some stuff. Or, like he said, whistleblowers that are just on the inside that are just tired of it, and they start exposing information to try to make, to have us truly understand what is happening. But, yeah, so let's go Knicks. Light side of stuff, let's go Knicks. Which, they better win. But yeah, social media and politics is like they're 2 and 2 now. They've become 2 and 2, and it's just that's probably how it's going to be for the rest of our lifetimes. Is social media is really going to influence politics, and that's where a lot of people get their political information. And because of the algorithm, sometimes they're subject to believe things that are not true. But that's just the world we live in. So one day, hopefully, the truth prevails and everything works out good. But yeah, this has been another edition of Matt's Matters with me, your host, Matt Benson. We'll catch you guys next week. I'm going to Denver this weekend. I've never been to the mountains before, so I'm excited. It's going to be tough to breathe. I'm going to have my oxygen mask on up there in the mountains. But yeah, so looking forward to that long flight. Just going to do some reading. Read books, guys. Don't always read things online. Read good old-fashioned books. But yeah, so we'll catch you guys next week. Just stay informed out there. Make sure what you're seeing is accurate. And if you're questioning it, always just do your own research. There's plenty of people out there who will do research for us to read, but you just got to find it. Dig deep onto Google. And we'll catch you guys next week. Love and peace always. And stay informed. And speak the truth. Peace.